Hello and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever episode 136. We've got a nice breezy one today, focusing on Arcade Archives 2, the discreet announcement at the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. But before we jump into that, I've got two pickups that I want to get done real fast. I've got SteamWorld Heist 2 and Castlevania Dominus Collection. I've already put Dominus Collection through its paces. I went through Dawn of Sorrow again. Massive improvements on all fronts, honestly, with this version of Dawn of Sorrow. Does a lot to get rid of a lot of the touchscreen problems I had. Still has problems elsewhere, but at the very least, it's an excellent compilation of games that have deserved it for a long time and is done better than I think any other DS conversion outside of Ghost Trick. Just a splendid job, M2, as always. Let's jump into the main video. Alright, before getting into the topic at hand, I do want to apologize for various noises you might be hearing. I have an air purifier and fans going. It is starting to A, warm up, and B, become super allergy season, and I have been suffering for a couple days, so I'm hoping that the mic isn't picking that up too badly, but if you can hear it, I apologize. I'll see what I can do about it in editing. To the topic at hand. In all of those Nintendo Switch 2 reveals and announcements that happened, one slipped under the radar for a lot of people, and I understand why, because it's like less than 10 seconds. Arcade Archives 2 announced its first game, and it's not Professor Layton. It's Ridge Racer from Namco, a wonderful beginning to Arcade Archives 2. Well, what is Arcade Archives 2? How is it different? Let's get a little bit into some background and talk about why this is a really big deal, I think, in the grand scheme of retro games from the arcade, as well as what the future of it might look like based on what little we actually know. Alright, so Hamster's released their own trailer for Ridge Racer, so we'll just play that in the background for a little bit. So, from my understanding, Hamster has launched a new line of Arcade Archives with a 2 at the end. We've already seen the first of these with the Neo Geo line of Arcade Archives, with King of Fighters 98 getting a revamped release with online play and a few other bonus features that differentiate it from the original Arcade Archives Neo Geo release. But the online play is the big one. With Arcade Archives 2, this is a 3D game. We haven't had a 3D game at all from Arcade Archives 1. Nor I don't think there was ever an expectation that we would. So, with Ridge Racer announced and coming out the same day as the Switch 2, this likely means that Arcade Archives 2 is going to be a Switch 2, PS5, and Xbox Series exclusive line that is able to do 3D games from the arcade, maybe more advanced 2D games from their partners that they've been building up over the years, which includes Bandai Namco, but also has Konami, also has Taito, SNK, I'm trying to remember all the companies, Koei Tecmo, Sunsoft, Nintendo, which would be Switch 2 only, obviously, if they had anything to provide for this. And a bunch of smaller companies that, like Seta and Ultimer, can't remember them all off the top of my head. But there's a lot of potential with Arcade Archives 2 doing 3D games and more advanced games outside of like 1995. which I feel is the latest that Arcade Archives has done. Was it like 93, 94? And this is from 1993. So this is one of the earliest 3D games that Namco made, and a very important one, obviously. This game would be a cornerstone of the PlayStation when it got ported. But let's look at a few other details. Alright, Video Games Chronicle covered this a little bit, which is nice. As I noted, the polygon Ridge Racer marks a notable change. There will be a time attack mode and a network mode, but Ridge Racer single player, so it will lack that network mode. So it appears that moving forward, the 2s will have online play if it's an option, and then VRR support, multiple save slots, rewind, quick start, all of the stuff that's in the Neo Geo ACA2 seems to be jumping over into the Arcade Archives 2 line as well. Okay, so the future for Arcade Archives 2. What could that look like? The best guess I've got is 3D, primarily. But there could be so much more to what Hamster's got cooking. We don't fully know. We've only got the one game. So I'm making some speculation. I did a little bit of research. I'm going to talk about a few games that I think have a possibility of joining Arcade Archives 2 specifically, that are new and exciting and three-dimensional. Let's continue with Namco for a little bit longer. Ridge Racer was not the only racing game that Namco did. There were many Ridge Racer sequels. Ridge Racer 2 and Rave Racer leap to mind as really good follow-ups to Ridge Racer down the road. One of Namco's earliest 3D efforts was Cyber Sled, which I believe is a racing battle game? I don't quite remember. That's also up there as a possibility. Tekken and Soul Edge, where Namco really landed their fighting game output. I think both of those are fairly likely as well. We could even see Tekken 2, Tekken 3, and the OG Soul Calibur for arcades, which does not look as good as the Dreamcast one, but it was built off of the Soul Edge engine. So it's certainly a possibility, and we never had a true port of that version of the game before. Konami, they've been a pretty big partner. They didn't do as much 3D stuff in the arcades that at least is well known and well regarded. There's Hyper Athlete, which is track and field, but with polygons. It was localized as international track and field here. There was a Gradius spin-off that I'm trying to read what it says here. Solar Assault, I think is what it was called. That could be an interesting get just to further expand the world of Gradius. They had a couple racing games. Road Rage and Winning Heat are a couple of them. They had a multitude of fighting games, but none of them are really well known. Fighting games in Konami only really seem to click for Ninja Turtles, Tournament Fighters, and honestly on the Super Nintendo. But they gave it a good effort. And I think out of the three that I was able to dig something up on, Battle Trist might have been the only one that was localized. So that one seems like a fair bet. I don't know if it's any better than like Deadly Arts, but hey, it's an option. Taito, Densha de Go, their train simulation series. That's probably one of their biggest franchises that we've never really seen in North America, in contrast to its huge popularity in Japan. And outside of maybe some control issues, I think it could be an interesting thing to bring. They also had a couple racing games of their own. Side by Side and Battle Gear are two in the same series, they just had different names. Psychic Force, their air-based 3D arena fighter, could be really cool to see. How about some really interesting curios? Mario Kart Arcade GP. Could we see that? Nintendo is a partner. They allowed Hamster to release several of their older arcade games, and they don't really have much to work from in the 90s. Killer Instinct is Microsoft's. Cruisin' belongs to Eugene Jarvis and his company. So why not try Mario Kart? Why not try F-Zero AX? Why not try Luigi's Mansion Arcade? There's just these interesting experiments that were done around the GameCube era that would be really neat. I just don't know if they could handle it because I don't know the depths of Hamster's 3D prowess in terms of Arcade Archives 2. If they are doing stuff in the 2000s, that opens up so many more doors. But we'll have to see. Some other interesting curiosities that I dug up. Astra Superstars by Sunsoft. Another air-based fighting game that was after all the other ones, but has never been ported, at least the arcade version, to anything in particular. I think it got a PS1 and Saturn port, maybe, but I think it has some 3D elements to it. Dead or Alive, it and its sequel were arcade games, but the first one at least is somewhat rooted in the technology that Ridge Racer's around. So that's a possibility. Eureka is a partner through Tetris the Grandmaster. Maybe we could get Fighting Layer. Maybe we could get the Rhythm Technic Beat. That would be interesting. I've never even heard of Technic Beat until I was looking up stuff. Sonic Wings through Success. There was Sonic Wings Special, which is a combination of all of the various Sonic Wing games, and I think there's some 3D elements to those. Raiden had a separate franchise called Raiden Fighters. That's a possibility as well. But from there, it's like really advanced 2D stuff or really obscure things. Because a lot of these companies outside of Namco, and to a lesser degree Taito, didn't have the huge arcade success once 3D rolled in. Namco was really firing on all cylinders in the 3D arcade space in comparison to a lot of their contemporaries. Sega is really the biggest rival they had, and Sega's currently not on Arcade Archives, regrettably in a lot of ways, because I think they would be a great partner. There's so much that they could re-release outside of the Astro City Mini. So that's about where we are with Arcade Archives 2. Until we get some more announcements, we don't really know what the full scope of what this amazing little 5-second teaser in the wide open direct could bring us. And I'm personally pretty excited. I really like Arcade Archives. They've brought so many really awesome arcade experiences home in really solid emulation, and I've been able to play some of the coolest games that I've never got a chance to play in arcades. Mythic Warriors, Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves, Viper Phase 1 is one that I recently played that I was really impressed by the Raiden devs. Dead Connection, another great Taito game that I've never had the opportunity to play before, and now I have. Metamorphic Force, the spiritual successor to X-Men, and it's a really neat game. So much cool stuff that they have resurrected, and I don't know if they really get the pop and praise that they deserve in a lot of ways. So I want to say thank you, Hamster, for all that you've already done, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. We're going to have this be a relatively short episode today, because there will be other stuff to talk about very, very soon. I just wanted to get this particular tangent in my reaction covered before too much time passed. So, thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know Hamster a little bit better, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Hello! Camera's over here now. That's not good.